Sveiki visi, susirengę šiandien pirmadienį čia į mano kanalą ir pradedu antrąjį epizodą Stanley Parable ir kaip matot, visą laiką, kai tik pradedi vėl žaisti, galėsim būti kur sustojęs, tai dabar sen niekada neįsisaugo, turi pradėti viską per naują. Tai, žodžiu, aš pradėjau viską per naują, tik dėjau iš tos vietos, visą kitą, ta prasme, praleidau ir panašiai. Tik kad galėtume tęsti nuo tos vietos, kurios aš buvau pradėjęs ir pabaigęs. What's this? Reikia kažkokį dabar jau minčių, nu, atsimenu, kad aš controls,
he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Tipo, valdo mintis, bet tai... O shit. Viską nuo pradžio, ne? Kas čia vyksta dabar? Galit paaiškinti?
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over?
Was it? Was it?
Yes.
Nope.
He had won.
Yeah,
he had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold?
Whoa!
As sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not
Yay!
power
Aš
that he had been
laisvas!
seeking.
Beveik gal ne.
Perhaps his goal had not been to understand.
Iki kieta.
No longer would anyone tell him where.
Tai jis tipo visą laiką buvo šitam ofise uždarytas.
or how
Debil.
to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he knew.
Wow!
It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Freedom for all!
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Sure, he was happy. Ir čia viskas? Ai, suprantu, čia... Dabar suprantu, ką šitie žodžiai reiškia. Ta prasme, kad pabaigos nėra ir vis skirtingos yra pabaigos. Pats gali skirtingą pabaigą. Matot, vėl viską nuo pradžių pradėti. Dabar pabandykim kitą pabaigą. Pabandykim padaryti taip, kad nieko neklausysiu ir darysiu visiškai atvirkščiai, ką jis prašys. Visiškai nedarysiu tą, ką jis prašys ir pažiūrėsim, kas gausis. Eik tu eiti į kairę, bet aš eisiu į dešinę.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Oh, shut up. Kągi mes čia turim?
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really am not.
Sure.
I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for
Ką aš jau darau, kad aš pats galvoju?
for her.
Kur šitas šios pasakojimas?
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Oh!
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the...
Pakelk telefoną. Jūs būtų būčiau nepakėlęs telefonų. Fuck.
Stanley, is that you?
Oh.
Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. Oh.
Šušneka.
Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Whoosh. What the fuck?
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a love?
Ne, bet tai gražiai, tikrai
They want to
gražiai.
commit their life to you.
Kaip
I'm
aš
trying to
ją
make a point here, Stanley.
prisimint.
I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you
Oh,
what's really
Jesus.
going on here. This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Ne, nespausiu. Aš sakau, nespausiu. Tu nežiūrėk į mane. A tu girdi? A tu girdži? Sakau, nespausiu. Ei, tu ten viršui. Aš paspausiu Q raidę. W, E, R, T, I, O, O, P. Nu, bilė, paspausiu
Stanley is
raidę.
quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands
Sakau,
nothing
nepaklausė
of
manęs
him.
dėti,
And
paklausau.
every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence. Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button.
Sučiauk,
Now he's eating lunch.
sučiauk,
Now he's going
sučiauk,
home.
sučiauk, sakau.
Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
What's that? Ne, paspausiu V, paspausiu B, paspausiu N, paspausiu M.
But in his mind,
Gerai, paspausiu G.
in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed
Are you
of
mad?
wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands.
Oh.
It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Išleiskit mane iš čia. Aš turiu televizorių?
And so he began to fantasize about his own job.
Kad neturiu.
First, he imagined that one day,
Jo, palauk, kad
he
čia ne,
stepped
kartais
up from
nebuvo
his
kranas,
desk
kad aš
to
turiu laiką.
realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the
Nežinau.
building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Terrible.
So he went further.
Aš neturiu
He
vaikų.
imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either.
Išleiskit mane iš
Last
tokiais
choice.
keista.
It barely
Keista.
even mattered what
Keista.
lay behind each door.
Keista.
The mere thought that his decision would mean something was too wonderful
Milk
to
chocolate.
behold.
Ah!
As he wandered through
Whoa.
this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many
Jūs
possible
protėjus,
paths
reikia
and
Jėzus.
destinations.
That bitch
Down
need
one
Jesus.
path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
What?
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again,
And again, over and over.
wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free.
Verd.
Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played
Mustn't
just
there
one
be?
more time.
Tell your wife you love her.
But there is no answer.
No, I don't.
How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing
Čia
is
vėl
pushing
mano
the
ofisas.
same
What the
buttons he
fuck?
always
Čia vėl
has.
visas kartuojas.
Nothing has changed. The longer he
Čia
spends here,
poteris
the
iš
more
jų, čia-
invested he gets,
Nu,
the
poteris
more
iš
he
tautos,
forgets
išvaigina,
which
išvaigina.
life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains
Śnieg
here,
to man.
he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. Stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Okay, nespausiu. Bet jūs mane verčia spaust, nu? Nieko nevyks, jei nepaspausia, ne? Mhm. Šiknis. Aš nespausiu. Nu ir gerai, lauksim. Gerai? Aš turiu laiko. Oi, visas atostogas turiu, žinok. Jau pradėjau atsibost. Keisiu, kas gera telefone. O, jau pusė 12. Neblogai. Nu gerai, paspausiu.
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll
Mane
understand
verčia
that every
spaust.
second he
Mane
remains
verčia.
here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Šiknis. Kas čia
I
metin?
suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must.
You
Perhaps,
don't.
well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again.
Please die.
Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I
What the fuck? Viskas? Žodžiu nesupratau.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others.
Palauk,
So
čia
the
biškį
thought
gerai.
of total solitude was terrifying to him.
Čia kažkas žodžiai sakėte, atrodo.
When Stanley came to a set of two
Tas
open
pats
doors,
vėžt.
he entered the door on his left.
Man atrodo, aš baigiu šitą seriją žaidimų, nes čia vis tas pats per tą patį ir čia nieko gero. Nors nepalauk, kad dar žinau vieną dalyką. Einam pro čia. Dar žinau vieną pabaigą, ar bus paskutiniai epizodų. 2 dalys bus šio žaidimo, nes čia daugiau nežinau, ką
Yet
galima
there was not
įstumti
a
iš tų
single
žaidimų
person
daugiau.
here either.
Tik tai labai greitos pabaigos, labai greitas
Disbelief,
žaidimas.
Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Jis būtų jeigu
Coming to
žemyną
a
eičiau.
staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's
No,
office.
I won't gonna go to my... O, dar čia daugiau tų pabaigų yra.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy.
Yep.
And then something occurred to Stanley.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Maybe, he thought to
Du sykius
himself,
apie ją tą
maybe
patį
I
ratą.
am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it.
What
made
the
any
fuck? Kur aš
logical sense.
einu? Hey.
As Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming!
What the...
He yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an
Ką
answer,
aš
an
dabar
explanation.
dirbu, aš nesuprantu.
His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
O, what the fuck, aš
Then
skrendu.
he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It
Hey,
was so
what the
much
fuck?
fun,
Kas čia
and
vyksta?
Stanley marveled that
Skrenda.
he had
O,
started
last
How
Christmas.
was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm
Nu,
doing?
biškai per durinės man čia komentuoja.
Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice
Čia
describing me,
nebuvo to.
thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd, and wondered if this
šnekėt,
voice
gal tau
spoke to all
nesibosta
people
šnekėt.
in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself? Believing that if
kur
he's
čia
asleep,
išėjimas?
he doesn't have to take responsibility for
What the
himself?
fuck, ką man daryti?
Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely.
Joke!
He would prove it. He
Joke.
would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up.
Look!
He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be.
What the fuck is going on?
Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Ne, čia geriau būt negali, jau tikrai negali būt geriau.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she was soon turned to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring.
Ir pasirodo, kad ji normali, aš nenormalus. Tai kas dabar normalus? Pabėgau. Tai padėtų man geriau. Ne, pabėgau. Jo, dar viena keista pabaiga. Tai vat, žodžiu, supratau jau, kad mes mėžtam žaidime, kad čia niekada nėra pabaigos. Ir vis kažkas kitai pasikeičia. Ir va dabar aš save vėl užsidariau. Žodžiu, baigiu šitą epizodą, padarysiu dar gal kitą, nežinau, jei sugalvosiu, jeigu rasiu kokių kitų pabaigų, dar jau manau yra labai daug, tiesiog reikia jas visas išbandyti. Žodžiu, aš visas išbandysiu per kitą epizodą, pasistengsiu. Ir sakau jums